Okay, right at 2 p.m. now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. For those people who haven't been on a session so far, this is what TransIT 7 looks like. We're very excited to be showing you TransIT 7. Things are a little bit different, starting with user settings. So when you sign on now, your initial will be showing here in the right corner. And if you want to get to your user settings, you just click your initial and it brings up, it brings up the user settings. And you can see under here, you have the ability to either sign out or change your password. You also have the ability to turn on what email address you want for emailing and what phone number you want for texting. And then right now, we have the ability to set up for test rounds, either whether you want email or text or both. And in the coming days, plans will be added back there so that you'll have texting for and emails for plans as well. So again, that's this icon here, your initial. What we're going to be going through today, though, is mostly for testing. And so for testing, where I'm going to start is, actually, I'll start over here with the org settings and the test script details. Test script details are significantly different in TransIT 7 in that we started you off with R script details that you've always had, but now you have the ability, you'll all have this add script detail button if you're an admin. So if there's something that you've always wanted to add as a scenario header detail that wasn't there, you have the ability to do that now without contacting us. The one thing I'll caution people on is we still will be developing global content. So if you're wanting to set up something that you think other clients would use and you think we would write content around it, then it's still best to contact us and say, hey, we're thinking of setting up this header detail. What do you think? And that way we can make sure we set it up the same way and we'll be able to share content. So again, nice to have the ability to have your own header details. The other thing here you'll see is there's a default selection. So if you've ever been creating a test script and were annoyed that you had to go and select all of the same fields all of the time, now you have the ability to work with your admin and have them set up in advance what things you want to routinely be added to the header. And every time you create a script, it'll automatically add these header fields. So very nice new feature. I'm going to move now to modules. And modules in TransIT 7 are what workflows were in TransIT 6. So if you haven't heard before, tasks have gone away. So where people used to find difficulty was they would create a module for entering orders, for example, and they would want to use that in a test script, and it was 98% correct, but there was one piece at the end that was different. And you used to have to then create a separate task for it. And then you had to decide, do I want a separate workflow? So you don't have to do that now. You can just create your workflows to be what you do most of the time. And then in the instance when something is slightly different, so for example, somebody enters an order set and an alert fires at the end, you can just type that right into that specific test script. So where we thought in the beginning that tasks would be helpful to be able to create all these little bits and pieces that you needed, we've decided instead that going with these modules and then just adding the changes directly into the test script is actually much easier for test script creation and maintenance. So again, anything that you had in tasks that you hadn't put into a module or wasn't in a test script, none of those will be there come tomorrow morning. So if you're working on something now and you want to make sure that you don't lose it and you haven't built the workflow yet, then what I would do is I would take those tasks that you've built and move them to a workflow or move them to a test script. And that way you'll be able to save them going forward. But anything that's a single task that's already in a test script, it will remain in that test script and you won't have to worry about that. So here under modules, there's not that much difference from what was under workflows before, except that the number that used to be over on the left-hand side here telling you what scripts it's in, that's now moved to the center here. So for example, this specific module is in 6 test scripts. And if I want to see what those test scripts are, I can just click here and it'll take me to that filtered list of test scripts. There is also, and I did not show this yesterday, there is sort of a find and replace kind of functionality that people have asked for a lot in the past. So if I want to see, what modules there are that have green in them, then I can type green in the screen here, and it's going to give me a list of every workflow that has green in it. If I then wanted to change that green to be something else, then I can highlight the workflow, or sorry, the modules that I want to do it in, right click, type find and replace, and say find green wherever it is, and replace it with yellow. And replace all, and it makes that replacement for you. So then if I want to go ahead and see, well, where do I have yellow? Apparently I have a lot of yellows. I didn't know I was going to have a lot. Whoops. When I type in yellow here, it will show me all the places I have yellow, and then I could highlight them if I didn't realize I'd had so many of them, and turn them back to say green. So you obviously are going to want some sort of a hover to be able to see what's in there. So I chose the first 4, but you could have chosen any. So the idea would be if there's something you have to replace, like there was some specific verbiage that changed in several places, you can look for it this way. Or if you just know what they are, you can put them all on the screen together, highlight them, and then do a find and replace for all of those things. If you want to create a module, you just click Add Module. It comes up and you have to put in a name, a description, and a vendor and a project. The same as before. If you're doing something across multiple vendors, then don't put the vendor name in, add in all the content you want, and then add the vendor afterwards. Does anyone have any questions about modules? Okay.
Hi, Patty. Yeah, it's Christina.
Yeah.
I have a question. So with the new concept of modules having no like individual tasks to maintain, you stated that if we grab a module, we put it into a script, and there's one step that's different, we could just change it right on the script.
Absolutely. Yep. And it doesn't change your module. It only changes it in that script.
Okay, so then we would only be maintaining one module, but inside the script, we would maintain a separate step.
Yeah, you can maintain the step there. Yeah.
Or so is it the same idea that if I do want to create completely different modules, even only for one different step,
you can still do that.
But we don't have to go out and create a separate task. We could just do. You don't have to create give the new module a name and then just edit right straight in there. Yeah, and it won't impact the other workflows. Yep.
So for example, if I wanted to make an exact copy of this workflow, except for one step, then I can just copy all the steps in it. And I actually haven't tried this yet, if the module has to exist first or not. But anyway, so say we now do a create module, and yeah, my icon's there. Then I just paste in, and here's my steps, and then I can just go and update this one thing. And now I have 2 modules that are exactly the same, except for it has that one step here. Or like I said, if you don't want to, you just don't even bother updating the module. You just put this in the script, and in that script, you click and make the change there. So it's going to make it a lot easier to have a simple set of modules that you use over and over again. In your case, Christina, like from a registration standpoint, you still might want to have a module built out for each of your registration flows. So each of your conversations, because those you'll use multiple times. But if it's the example that I was saying, where you're doing or entering an order set, and in this one random case, an alert fires somewhere, then why bother creating a special workflow for that? Just use your regular workflow and add that one step in.
Yeah, agreed. Both approaches are easier to maintain in this way. I just making sure that I had my head was straight, because you're right. For registration, we'd probably want different ones, but what was the challenge before is that if we did what you just did, we'd be messing up the task.
Other scripts, yep.
That already belonged into the other workflow that we copied from.
Yep. and now you won't. Now
cool.
you're completely unhampered by tasks. Okay, so there's another thing that's pretty cool in here, which is, I don't know if many people on the call used it before, but there used to be like a sort of a details box here that had a drop down, and I'm not even sure if everyone was aware of it or not. But now, when you want to add a header detail into somewhere in a workflow or somewhere in a script, all you do is you put the square bracket and it pops up the entire list of details there. And you don't even have to know exactly what it is because it's a contained search. So if I didn't know, okay, well, like, what did I build for CPT codes? Oh, I built CPT codes. I can type in code and then just choose it and it adds it in for you. So much, much, much easier than it used to be to actually put those header details in. And again, it works down here as well in your outcomes. So much easier to make use of the header details. So that's the main.
Can we still just type in details? The word details?
So that's a really good question. I don't know if you can. I think the answer is you wouldn't need to. So you mean if you didn't know what you were going to put in there? Like, when do you think you would need details now?
Like if you would want to do a free text thing just for that script, but there's no like details bracketed thing in the header.
Yeah, so yep, you could just put in details and then fill in whatever you want. I'm not sure if it'll let you do details, and you can make it let you do details by just building a scenario header detail called details, and then it will do that same thing. So if you want to add a custom one there, you'd be able to do that. So it's like, for example, you were doing an iView band or whatever, and you were just using the generic one, and now you're actually in the test script. So now you want to put in what those fields are, and so you wanted to just have a details there. That's the sort of thing. Yep.
Yes, that's exactly an example of what I'm talking about.
Yep. So again, like, or you aren't wanting them to fill in every field in the registration column all the time. So you just had a details there, and then in the specific script you put in. Yeah, so you can just add a details called details. Let me see what it does if I do that. Yeah, so I mean, it let me free type it in too. So maybe you don't even have to build it. So you can just put that in the script. The question is, when we get over to a test script, I think you probably do want to build it as details. So everyone may want to do that, because you'll see when we get to test scripts how they behave differently. So I'm going to pull this one in when we get to test scripts, just so we can go and look at that together and see. But anyway, so much easier to use the details. So then the next thing then is scripts. And there's a few things that I'm going to show. Unless, does anyone have more questions on the modules?
The only thing I don't like about not having that free text field of details that you could then on a script type in something like, if I just want them to go to a workflow page, but in different scenarios, it's a different workflow page.
Yep.
I can't, that details that you put in the header, it's not, that's only for that one field. It's going to, anywhere you put details, it'll put that in.
It'll just put in that but if you added details, it'll just pull in details exactly like that.
Okay.
You're saying,
blank one,
I guess, I see what you're saying. You're saying you would need a whole bunch of them in the same script.
Yeah. It's kind of a loss of functionality there.
Well, like, I'm not sure, right? We'll test it out in a second and see, but I still don't think it would be, right? Because I'll play with it, and I'll make sure we give an update. And if we think we need to bring back the ability to do it, and maybe we do, right? Because I haven't added it yet. We're going to test in a second. That's something I haven't tested. We'll see what it does with this. But the other thing you can do is you can just have it. So the only thing the details is doing is giving you a placeholder to add information. But remember, now in the test script, you can just click anywhere and add whatever you want, right? So it could just say here, it could just say.
I think that's why we're struggling with that concept, because before, this was the way to get away with having less modules and putting more details at the script level. But now if we can just do that at the script level, then maybe that's why we don't need it as much anymore.
You don't need it as much. So we'll put one here where we've put nothing, and we'll put another one here 2 below where we put in details, and we'll see what it looks like. Because honestly, I hadn't really thought of it, so I hadn't really tried to do it. Because I think the intention by the development team is if you want to add additional information and just put added additional information, when you get to the script, you'll just type it all in, which is what you do now anyway, right? I don't
Gotcha.
know how
Yeah,
this is,
yeah, you
I don't know how this
yeah.
is going to behave, so we'll have to add it in a script and see. And so this is my 100284 copy of DOE. Okay, so now when we go to scripts, scripts are quite a bit different. What we're planning to do is have the ability to also upload real workflows into TransIT. Our target date for that is the end of Q1 of 2024. So our thought process was that you'll have your entire workflow with all the swim lanes that will be in TransIT, and then TransIT will help you create your modules from that. So each of the boxes that would be, except your decision boxes and your start and finish, would end up creating a module name for you that you would then go and build the content out. So you'd be able to have entire workflows in TransIT, but they'd be separate from your modules. Before, if you were going to build out your entire workflow in TransIT, then, you know, it would be a whole bunch of different positions and a whole bunch of different pieces that were all inside the workflow, and it would have been hard to use. So that's why we always built workflows out by position, because then they were easier to use in your test scripts. But now you'll have both concepts there, but not for another quarter yet. Okay, so the next piece now is going to then be scripts. And when we're in scripts, there's not much that's changed here. I didn't point out, you know, things are more face up in TransIT 7. So before you had to right click to get to the header. Now it's a click right here and your header is right there. So all over TransIT, things are more face up. So if I want to create a script now, I'll say add script. And I was going to go and get rid of all my car accidents, but I didn't. So now I'll make this car accident 3. In here, you still choose what kind of script it is. So it used to be workflows and scenarios. Now it's modules and scripts. And the script types are functional like we had before, but the one that used to be called process-based is now called scenario. So functional would be for your regression and system test scripts. Scenario testing would be for your integration and user acceptance testing. So the difference is the same as it always was. Functional scripts are divided by sections, so you don't have days. Scenario testing is divided by days, so you have days that you can enter here. And again, you can put in whatever you want for the script objective. And then the next thing to do is click Next Add Modules for a scenario-based script. So then what it's wanting you to do is just go in and tell it what modules you want in what order. So when we were working with clients creating test scripts, what we always had them do was fill in the scenario highlights. And it was always, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? So this allows you to do that. So instead of building it in your script header, you build it right here, and then it blows out the test script for you. Were you gonna ask something else, Christina, or not?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So in here, if your module has already been created, and you know that maybe it doesn't have the position selected, you can choose the position, and then you go to your module, and I say, okay, I know I want to do a quick reg, but I don't really remember what the workflow's called. So it's this one here I want to use for a new patient. You'll notice here there's some that say global after them, and there's some that don't. So obviously the ones that don't say global are your workflows, and the ones that say global are the ones where you're pulling from global. So I'm going to choose this as my workflow, and then I'm going to go on, and it's going to still be on day 1. And the next thing that's going to happen is the EDRN is going to triage the patient. Again, I don't really remember what the workflow name is, so I'll look here. And in this case, they're just going to do the part 1. So I choose that workflow. And then because the triage nurse has seen the patient, I know that the registration person can go ahead and complete that quick reg. So this one we said was a new patient, so I'm going to choose this one. And now it's time for the MD to see the patient. And if I know I haven't created the module for that yet, that's something that I'm going to work on, then I can put some information in here. ED, MD, assesses. patient, if I could type, and places orders. Okay, and so this is how you build out your test script. So all the what happens next, and so on. And you can change your days and everything there. And when you get finished building your story out in here, and again, this is for user acceptance testing and integration testing where you would do it this way. I'm then going to click the generate script steps, and it's going to go out and it's going to pull in those modules and it's going to create your script for you that way. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom here, then you'll see that this one where I just before you would put in a 452 to build a placeholder for yourself. Now it just puts in a step here that says EDMDSS's patient and places orders. And then I know that I need to go in and put in when I create my module for that, I need to insert that here and replace this. So it's much, much quicker to go out and build a scenario. And so now that we're in here, we're going to add in that module just to see what happens. And that was copy of DOE, and add that in. Refresh the screen here. And so when I go down to the bottom here, we were looking to see what happened to the details. So here is the details, and this is the way the details came in. So, it doesn't look like it did anything negative, but I can just type in whatever I want and click save. And then here, the two above, this is the alternative, right? Is it would just say add additional information, and you would click here and you would add the additional information.
Patty, can I just add to that, hoping to provide a little bit of clarity on the details field? So
Yep.
The reason why the details field with the capability to type in, like Patty showing height, weight, whatever the information is that you're wanting to type in. The reason the details field was so important to be added at the task level before was so that when you're either inside a workflow or now module, or inside a script, you wanted to be able to have the capability to edit that information individually for each workflow or for each time it's being inserted into a scenario. Whereas, so if you came to it inside a scenario, you'd have to right click to edit the task, and put in a details field or whatever you're wanting. Then you'd have to go back to your scenario, where what you're showing now is that the edit kind of eliminates that additional step of opening the individual task. The edit capability no longer is in the task because there are no longer tasks. So it's just as easy now to edit at the scenario and workflow level as it was before when you added that details placeholder. Hopefully that clarifies that a little bit.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
you can see, and you can see here as well that I have the ability to use that, or maybe you didn't see when Ange was talking, I was typing, that you have the ability to do the square bracket thing here too. So here now I've added, it said add additional information, and it would be whatever verbiage you would use, but this would be sort of like, the iView or the result type thing where you're wanting to tell them what entries to put in. And so now if I go to my header, and that was height and weight. Did I happen to have height and weight turned on? I did. So if I put in a value now into here, and then I go back to that test script, and we were way down at the bottom. Then once you fill in a field, it keeps the field name there, but then it puts the value here. When we get to testing, this height won't show. It'll show height : 175 centimeters. But so before we used to have to toggle on and off the header fields. Now you don't. Now if a field is valued, it will show the value. If it isn't valued like the weight, it'll show like this. So much nicer too for creating the test scripts. Okay, so we now have the test script created for a scenario based. And I'll stop and ask if anyone has any questions. If not, yeah, somebody has a question. Let me see who's got. Christy has a question.
Yes, Patty. So if we were to build a details field as a header field, oh, that won't work. Never mind, because we'd need multiple. Never mind.
That's what
It would
and
just
that's what
be
I think
really
Beth is saying.
nice. Yeah, it'd be really nice to see if we've add additional details, if we could get it to highlight somehow so that you knew you needed to go to that spot in the workflow.
So there's, sorry,
Nancy.
Patty, I don't know if you were gonna say this, but anywhere where previously you had that a details field used inside a scenario, you will see inside the scenario the same information that you previously had typed into that details field. Or if you happen to not fill anything into the details field, I believe the line that it says is click to add details.
Yes.
And so that's still there. And so, you know, if you come to a spot in your scenario where you or a workflow where you had details before, you'll be able to see that now it says click to add details. And just like you're asking for that to be a details kind of prompt, it is still there. So now you can look at your workflows and you can see, oh, it says click to add details. It obviously means I need to add some form of details, and you would just edit your task just like Patty, your scenario, just like Patty showing here. And this would be a great opportunity where you can use one of this specific header fields. And so the one struggle when it came to the header fields, because obviously the header fields are wonderful. You can add your fields that you need to your header, and it's going to automatically populate your scenario. But if you were using a task and you use it in previous TransIT, if you were using the task that said at the task level said details written inside brackets, then that's fine as long as you're doing a scenario where the patient name is only going to be one patient name. But let's say you work in the ED and you need to be doing a patient where there's a name change. So there's a John Doe. So you need to be able to have patient with no number, and then patient name with no number and patient name 2. So before, if you had patient name written at the task level, once you got to a workflow or a scenario, if you put that task in, it only worked if you only have one patient name. Whereas, so then if you came across that and you thought, oh shoot, I actually need to make this patient name 2 because I have a John Doe scenario, then you'd have to go back and edit the task. And if that task is being used 20 other places, then you're going to have to go back to all 20 other places and make that same change. Whereas now you make that one change inside your scenario or your workflow and you're not impacting anybody else.
And it's very easy to see. So that's the same for Fin or Fin 2 or Fin 3 or Fin 4. And it's really easy to see if in your script you've got the right one because it shows right here like this. So there's a lot of things that are much easier because of getting rid of tasks. But you see it does show all over the place, click to add details. So you will know where it's missing additional information. And the other thing that's great about this is there's a lot of times where you would put, add additional details. And in this specific scenario, maybe it's a registration and they'd filled in all the required fields and you didn't really want them to do anything else. And before it would say click to add details, and here you can just get rid of it, right? So because there's not a task, if you didn't want them to enter anything else, you just do that and click save and you're done. So much. We're really going to run out of time. There's still a lot of additional stuff that I want to show you. So Janet, did you have a quick question?
I did have a quick question. Did you say at some point that our scripts that we already have in there are going to be pulled over as they are?
Yep, all of them will be pulled over as they are.
What's going to happen to Beth's question? What's going to happen with the ones that we already have details in on?
All of the details will come across exactly as they are. The only thing, and so actually, like at every site, what we did was we contacted the admins and we've had them all validating the data to make sure that everything came across, and we've had really positive feedback. There was a couple of things that people caught that we've since fixed. But pretty much we're very confident that all of your data will be there, except for the tasks, which are going away.
And then I have another quick question before we have to end this, is the reports. Where are the reports?
So the reports aren't there. Which specific report were you wanting?
I like pulling going in and being able to pull all my, kind of figure out what scenarios all my people are in on and what days they are and what's all that sort of thing. So there's
okay, so that report is still there. The test planning report, is that the one you're talking about? You have to go into
each individual script, correct?
No. So let me quickly go to testing and we'll show that. So we're going to go way over, but there's a lot more to show. So let me quickly say here on the scripts, then anything that you fill in here, then obviously at this level, it's going to stay there permanently until you decide you want to change it. So whereas modules pull in, the details and then you can change them here. This is where you do any of the final editing. One quick thing I wanted to show you on the header fields. If you're doing something, it's mostly for the scheduling people. One of the things that was always really annoying in the header details was if you were trying to do your appointment details and those appointment details, where are my appointments here? You want them to hang together so that you have the appointment type and the appointment location and the appointment date. Okay, so if you want to add another one, so say in this script you had, several appointments. Now what you can do, you can highlight those fields, right click. Whoops, it's not letting me do it here. Oh, no, sorry, because I wasn't in the script. My bad, excuse me. Okay, so if we go back here to the car accident one that we were in and we go to the header, if you wanted to add another one before, then they didn't all hang together. Now what you do is you highlight all of your appointment fields together, you right click and you say increment and add below, and then it's going to put your appointment 2. And then you can add another one for appointment 3 and so on. So much nicer to have all of the appointment fields populate together. And I'm not sure if there's anything else. Like that would be true for vital signs too, right? If you wanted to have multiple sets of vitals in there, then you would do the same thing. Highlight the vitals all together and right click and create another. So this makes the population of the header much easier to do everything for appointment 1 and then everything for appointment 2. Okay, moving on to testing. There are some significant differences in testing too. And this is here where it is a lot more face up. Let me quickly see what dates I had on this test round. Okay, this one's going to be okay-ish. Okay, so if I go into this test round now on the dashboard, then it's showing days 1 and 2 because day 1 was yesterday. But you can see that right here, all your header fields show. If you want to change something in the header field, you can click here. And now what you do is you put in a sequence. So say I didn't really want the MRN there. Say I only wanted the name to show. Then I would just, go in here. Okay, somebody's going to have to write that down for me. It doesn't look like you can blank out. Oh, put in a 0 to blank it out apparently. And then when I go back to the dashboard, it's changed it for me. So, if you haven't filled out what you want to be in the column, there'll be a little, let's go in and see if we can do that quickly. So if here, say I hadn't filled anything in yet, when I go back, it shows, I guess I have to refresh. No. So if you see sometimes there'll be a little icon, that's the header icon that'll show there if you haven't populated something into the header. I guess it doesn't let you wipe it out once it's there. So now your positions are a little bit different. The roster, if you want to change your positions, instead of them being under your user settings, there's a little roster icon here. And if you were supposed to be added here and you hadn't been added, you can go in and add yourself in for the coverage there. If I go back to my dashboard here, once you've set up your positions, it's now, instead of it used to be a right click or it was the heads icon or something to filter to your position dashboard, now you just click here. And it's going to filter your dashboard to show you your steps. And it looks like my internet's a little slow here. Okay, so it shows you your steps and when you're due up, the same as you always did, but now it's more English. It says steps before you, whereas before it was just a number. And again, you still have the ability to go in and look and see if those 2 steps are important or if they're not. And if they're not, you can go ahead. So if we go inside to the test steps page now, things are more face up in here as well. So you can see here, remember I was saying if you filled it in that it wouldn't show name, patient name John Lennon, it just shows name John Lennon. But here, the things that you do most often, pass, fail, or skip, are all right here, head up, and they've got hover text if you don't remember which is which. So if I wanted to pass this step, I can just pass as usual. But there's also the ability to do the multi-select like you've always been able to do in pass. Issues are a little bit different. This one is for adding a test note. So if I want to add a test note here, again, it's face up. I don't have to right click. Somebody has a question. Joy, you have a question? Oh, and so does Amanda. Joy?
I just wondered, back on the other screen where you had the SMEs who were going to do the testing,
Yep.
there were actual names beside of it. Do we have to use that function?
If you're not using it today, you don't have to, but it drives a lot of things. Like that's who gets notifications when they're due up. And I know you guys haven't been using those notifications because a lot of your SMEs don't carry their personal cell phones or whatever, but a lot of clients love that functionality. So when you go in here,
wanted to make sure.
you don't have to use it. Actually, like if we were back creating a test round, that's when you typically build the roster. But this is just if somebody hasn't assigned you positions and you want to assign yourself positions, then you go here.
Okay.
And Amanda had a question as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
I did. So while we were digging around today, we came across the roles functionality, and we couldn't figure out what is the difference between the positions and
roles. Yep. So positions are for test scripts and roles are for plans. So if you're building a plan in TransIT, and there's another class for that, but if you're building a plan in TransIT and you want to assign something to the registration analyst, then you would build yourself roles of registration analyst. If you're using our plans for cutover and for staffing at go live or that kind of stuff, then you might have plans like command center lead or command center assistant or whatever. So roles are basically for plans, and you just have to get together as an organization and decide what roles you want. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we were in and we were going to log an issue. So now again, issues and notes are face up. I have 3 issues logged here, and if I want to see what that issue is, I can just hover to see what it is. I was going to log a note here. In the note type, this organization has automatically defaulted their note type to be script change, and that's probably what you want to do. So if you're not an admin and we go live and you have to continually choose your note type, all you have to do is email your admin and say, hey, default the note type to script change, and that will take them 2 seconds to do. So you can also put in screenshots into things now like you couldn't do before. So if I want to add a screenshot, you probably don't have time for me to show you both. So hang on. But anyway, to do a screenshot, you do like, you know, your screenshot characters on your keyboard, and then you take whatever your screenshot is, you go here, whoops, you go here and you paste it in, and it shows the name there, and you click save, and then it's saved with your note. We're probably going to run out of time to go to the notes page. There is the ability here as well to unlink an issue just like there is now. So if I go here and I do unlink issue here, then in the unlinked box, it should tell me what the issue is. You can remove it and unlink it. You also have the ability to attach multiple issues and multiple notes now. Let's see. So I guess if we're really short on time, I guess what I'll do is I'll go back to the dashboard here and quickly go in and show you that you can get to your notes from here and your issues from here as well. So if we go in, I'm not sure why it's so slow for me right now. Probably my internet. So if you go here to your notes, the notes look a little bit different. everything is across the line and face up. And to get into an issue, you just click and it'll take you inside the issue. Well, I guess that's one thing I didn't show you. When you log your issues now, I better go back and show that. When you log an issue in testing now, it gives you limited information to enter. So if I wanted to put a issue here, I click the issue icon and it pops up. And this is the information that you're going to have to enter. And the other information is for later. So to sort of speed up the testing process, you don't give them a whole bunch of things, just, you know, in TransIT 7, you have the concept of both severity and impact, and severity and impact are what drive priority. So the person doing the testing is supposed to fill in the severity. So it's critical to me, and impact, well, it's really just me at impact. So I'll choose localized, and then that's going to drive the priority. And here again, you can do a screenshot if you want to and attach it to this. So I'll do my screenshot. And it puts it down here, and then I click create. Oh, I didn't choose a category, sorry. And so then if we wanted to go back to our issue list and look at this issue, when I open it up, you can see I put my screenshot in, and this is now, you can see it automatically defaulted in the priority based on what the tester said the criticality or the severity of the issue was and how many people it was going to impact. And then here you can just add comments. And once you're inside here, inside these boxes, you can do any number of screenshots. And then when you do the screenshots, you can put text around them. So if I put in my next screenshot here, it pastes in, and I can put whatever text I want afterwards. And then I just save it, and it saves with the issues. Okay, I'm sorry, we're like way over. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
Patty, back to Janet's. I don't think you ever showed us how to actually do those reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so yep, you're right. If I go back to testing, the test planning report is right here. So there are, like the other reports, like the audit and everything like that, it is not available yet. The data will all be captured, but we are not going to hold up the go live for. So if there's something, you know, if you are in an audit and you need data from us, you'll have to log a ticket and we'll get it to you very quickly. But in the meantime, the reports feature isn't there except for this test planning report. So the test planning report is what you run before a round of testing. So you create your test round like this, you assign your scripts to it, and then it used to be you would right click and go to reports and you would run the test planning. Now you just click here and it's going to run the test planning report for you. And it'll be here on the screen in a second. And so this is sort of telling you who you need on what day. Any other questions on testing or anything else? So one of the things I'll say in closing is that we're working on sort of a basic what's new, and we're going to be sending that out to the admins today so that you'll be able to disseminate it internally. It's, you know, 4 or 5 pages of the main things that are different in TransIT 7 from TransIT 6, and we hope that'll be helpful to everybody. In the meantime, all these videos will also be on our YouTube channel, hopefully before tomorrow morning. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.